There's a special kind of clarity that comes in moments of accidental discovery. A sudden, violent ripping away of everything you thought you knew, leaving only the harsh truth underneath. For me, that clarity arrived in the form of a crumpled paper towel in our bathroom trash can. I was changing the garbage bag, a mindless Sunday chore, while my wife, Emma, was supposedly visiting her sister in Chicago for the weekend. The COVID-19 pandemic had changed our routines, but after 2 years, we'd adapted to the precautions and testing that had become part of everyday life. As I pushed down the trash to tie the bag, I noticed a white plastic testing device with 2 distinct red lines. Positive, a COVID test. Today's date written on it in Emma's handwriting. My mind refused to process what I was seeing. Emma had sent me a photo of her negative test result that very morning, captioned, "All clear. See you tomorrow night, love you." I fished the test from the trash with trembling fingers, holding it up to the bathroom light. Unmistakable. 2 bright red lines. Positive, not negative, and definitely not from her sister's house in Chicago. My phone buzzed on the counter, a text from my cousin Michael. "Hey man, sorry about bailing on our basketball plans today. Not feeling great, think I might be coming down with something." Michael, who lived 20 minutes away, who had been distant the past few months, who had suddenly begun rescheduling our regular basketball games, always with vague excuses. Something cold and heavy settled in my stomach as I opened Emma's location on the shared family tracking app we'd started using during the pandemic. The little blue dot wasn't in Chicago, it was in our same city, just across town, near Michael's apartment building. I sat down on the bathroom floor, my legs suddenly unable to support my weight. My lungs constricted as if the virus itself had taken hold of them. The test fell from my numb fingers as another text came through from Emma. A selfie of her supposedly at her sister's apartment, holding up another negative test. A faked photo, a manufactured alibi, a deliberate deception. Why would my wife of 5 years be pretending to be COVID negative while actually testing positive? Why would she claim to be in Chicago when she was across town? And why did my cousin suddenly have a mysterious illness on the same day? The questions swirled in my mind, but part of me already knew the answers. I just wasn't ready to accept what they meant, not just about my marriage, but about everything I thought I knew about the 2 people I trusted most in the world. Emma and I met during our senior year of college 7 years ago. I was the quiet engineering student. She was the vibrant art major who somehow noticed me in the back of the campus coffee shop. Her laugh was what I fell in love with first, uninhibited, joyful, honest. "You look like someone who needs more color in his life," she'd said, sliding her portfolio of paintings across the table to me without introduction. She was right. My world had been all straight lines and precise measurements until Emma painted herself into every corner of it. We dated for 2 years before getting married in a small ceremony. Michael was my best man. "You hit the jackpot, cousin," he'd said during his toast, raising his glass to Emma. "Some guys have all the luck." The first 3 years of marriage were everything I'd hoped for. We bought a small house. We traveled when we could afford it. We talked about having children someday soon. We built a life that felt solid, grounded in mutual respect and shared dreams. Then the pandemic hit. Suddenly, our home became our entire world. I shifted to remote work as a structural engineer, setting up in the spare bedroom. Emma's job as an art teacher moved online, her classes conducted from our living room. The initial months of lockdown brought us closer, cooking elaborate meals, binge-watching shows, making plans for when this is all over. But as months stretched into a year, then longer, something shifted between us. Small irritations grew into silent resentments. The close quarters that had once felt intimate began to feel confining. Emma started talking about feeling creatively stifled, about needing space to breathe. "I love you," she'd assured me repeatedly. "This isn't about us, it's about me needing to remember who I am outside these walls." When vaccination rates increased and restrictions eased, Emma began visiting her sister in Chicago 1 weekend a month. Sister therapy, she called it. I encouraged these trips, hoping they would bring back the vibrant woman I'd married. Michael became my weekend companion during these times. basketball games, hiking, the occasional beer while watching sports. He was recently divorced, still raw from the split, and seemed to need the connection as much as I did. "How's Emma doing with all this pandemic stuff?" he'd asked during one of these hangouts, his tone casual. "She needs her space sometimes," I'd admitted. "These trips to see Lisa help, I think." He'd nodded, something unreadable in his expression. "You're a good husband, patient." Looking back, I should have noticed how he changed the subject whenever Emma came up. How he'd check his phone more frequently on the weekends she was supposedly out of town. How our plans together suddenly became more tentative, easily canceled. The testing protocols had become part of our routine. COVID tests before and after travel. Results shared with each other and our families in our group chat. Precautions that had become as normal as checking the weather before a trip. I never once thought to question the test results Emma showed me. Why would I? Our marriage had been built on truth, on trust, on the certainty that whatever challenges came, we faced them together. Now, sitting on our bathroom floor with her positive test in one hand and her faked negative result on my phone, I realized how completely I had misread everything. The foundation hadn't been crumbling slowly. It had been systematically dismantled brick by brick without my noticing. I spent that Sunday in a fog of disbelief and growing dread. My mind created elaborate explanations that could somehow make sense of the conflicting test results without destroying my marriage. Perhaps she'd taken multiple tests. Perhaps the positive was old. Perhaps there was some innocent explanation I couldn't yet see. But deep down I knew. I paced our house, seeing it with new eyes, looking for other signs I might have missed. In the home office, I found Emma's laptop still connected to our printer. The document history showed a Photoshop file from that morning, a digital manipulation of a COVID test result, changing the positive to negative. Methodical, deliberate, planned. With shaking hands, I checked our cellular account online. The pattern revealed itself immediately. On every weekend, Emma was in Chicago. There were no calls or texts to her sister's number. Instead, there were dozens of exchanges with Michael, at times when he'd told me he was working or unavailable. I pulled out a calendar, noting each of Emma's weekend trips for the past 6 months. 10 weekends away. 10 weekends that, according to our shared location history archive, she'd spent in our city, her location often matching Michael's exactly. Each discovery was another body blow, leaving me gasping for air, desperate for any alternative explanation. I called Lisa, Emma's sister, with some vague question about a birthday gift for Emma. During our conversation, I casually mentioned how much Emma must enjoy her monthly visits. The pause on the line was brief but telling. "Monthly visits?" Lisa's confusion was genuine. "Emma hasn't been here in almost a year. We just FaceTime sometimes. Is everything okay, James?" I mumbled something about miscommunication and ended the call, a new level of betrayal washing over me. Not just weekends with my cousin, but an elaborate fiction involving her family. Against my better judgment, I found myself driving to Michael's apartment building across town. I wasn't sure what I hoped to find or what I would do if I confirmed my worst fears. I just needed to know, to see with my own eyes. I parked across the street, feeling like a character in some terrible movie. Minutes stretched into an hour as I sat there, questioning my own sanity, wondering what I'd become to be spying on my own wife. Then I saw them. Emma emerged from the building first, mask on, hair pulled back, the COVID-positive wife who was supposedly in Chicago. Michael followed a moment later, keeping a careful distance as they walked to her car. They stopped before she got in. Even from across the street, the intimacy of their goodbye was unmistakable. Not a friendly hug, not a casual farewell. His hand lingered on her waist. Her fingers traced his jawline before she pulled her mask down. Their kiss was brief but devastating in its familiarity. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Had a great talk with Lisa today about her new job. Can't wait to tell you all about it tomorrow. Love you." Another lie, sent while she was still in view, still within 100 yards of where I sat witnessing the complete destruction of my reality. I started the car with numb fingers, driving aimlessly for hours, trying to process what I'd seen. Not just an affair, those happen, people make terrible mistakes, but a calculated, ongoing deception involving COVID tests, fake trips, manufactured alibis, and the willing participation of my own cousin. By the time I returned home, one thought had crystallized through the chaos of my emotions. I deserve the truth. Not more lies, not desperate explanations, but the full and complete truth. I texted Michael, I know. His response came quickly. Know what? Everything. The fake COVID tests, the weekends. She's not in Chicago, Michael. I saw you both today. The typing indicator disappeared, appeared again. Finally, James, I can explain. It's not what you think. Save it for tomorrow. Just tell Emma her COVID test is positive. The real one she threw in our bathroom trash. She should probably isolate when she gets home. I turned off my phone, unable to bear any more lies. Tomorrow, when Emma returned home expecting business as usual, we would have the conversation that would end life as we both knew it. And nothing would ever be the same again. I didn't sleep that night. How could I, knowing that within hours, I would confront the person I loved most about the lies that had destroyed everything between us? I heard Emma's car in the driveway around 10 the next morning, the jingle of her keys, the familiar sound of her bag dropping in the entryway. The routine normalcy of it was surreal given what was about to happen. James? Her voice called out hesitant. Michael had obviously warned her that I knew something. Are you home? I sat at the kitchen table, the positive COVID test in a plastic bag before me, her faked negative result printed out beside it. I'd also printed the location history showing her movements over the weekends she was supposedly in Chicago, and screenshots of the text exchanges between her and Michael. The evidence of months of deception laid out like a case file. In here, I replied, my voice strangely calm. She appeared in the doorway wearing a mask, a new precaution that hadn't been part of her Chicago return routine before. Her eyes widened at the items on the table, fear replacing the careful neutrality she'd entered with. What's all this? She asked, though we both knew exactly what it was. Please sit down, I said, and let's agree right now that there have been enough lies between us. She sank into the chair across from me, her face pale. James, I can explain. The COVID test, I interrupted. Let's start there. You tested positive yesterday morning, but you sent me a negative result. Why? Her fingers twisted together nervously. I didn't want you to worry. Worry about what, Emma? That you'd been exposed? That you might be sick? Or that your weekend plans with Michael would be ruined if I knew the truth? She flinched at Michael's name. He told you. No, you told me. I pushed the positive test toward her. This told me. The one you threw away in our bathroom before leaving for your trip to Chicago. The trip you never took, just like you never took any of those weekend trips in the past 6 months. Tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry you found out this way. As opposed to what way, Emma? Was there a good way for me to discover that my wife and my cousin have been lying to me for months, using a pandemic as cover for whatever this is between you? It wasn't supposed to happen, she said quietly, removing her mask since the pretense of health concerns seemed pointless now. Michael and it started during lockdown, those video calls when you were working late, just talking at first, then more. 6 months of deception isn't an accident, Emma. It's a choice. Multiple choices made every day to continue lying. My voice cracked for the first time. Do you love him? She looked down at her hands. I don't know, maybe. It's complicated. Complicated, I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue. Is that why you faked COVID tests? Created elaborate fictional weekends with your sister? Lied to my face every time you came home? Because it was complicated? I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. A harsh laugh escaped me. Well, that worked out perfectly, didn't it? I'm not hurt at all by discovering my wife has been sleeping with my cousin while pretending to be visiting her sister during a global pandemic. I'm thrilled, actually. The sarcasm hung heavy between us. Emma wiped her tears, her composure slipping further. What do you want me to say, James? That I'm a terrible person? I know that. That I made a massive mistake? I did. I got lost in something I didn't know how to get out of. Lost? I leaned forward. You strategically planned these weekends, Emma. You created fake test results. You coordinated lies with Michael. That's not getting lost. That's creating a detailed roadmap for deception. She had no response to that. What I can't understand, I continued, my voice quieter now, is why COVID? Why use a virus that's killed millions as your cover story? People are dying, losing loved ones, and you're falsifying test results to sneak around with my cousin? Emma's face crumpled in shame. It was easy, she admitted. Everyone's so used to COVID changing plans, creating distance. No one questions it anymore. The tests became the perfect alibi. The calculated nature of it stunned me anew. This wasn't just betrayal. It was betrayal that exploited a global tragedy for convenience. Does Michael know you actually tested positive? That you're potentially contagious right now? She nodded. He knows. He says he doesn't care. How romantic, I said flatly. Risking his health for a few stolen hours. I'm sure that will create a strong foundation for whatever you two are building on the ruins of our marriage. That's not fair, Emma protested weakly. Fair? The word ignited something in me. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair to look me in the eyes for 6 months and lie? Was it fair to involve my cousin, my family, in your deception? Was it fair to use a deadly virus as your convenient excuse? I stood up, suddenly unable to remain seated across from her. You didn't just cheat, Emma. You constructed an alternate reality and forced me to live in it. You made me doubt my own understanding of our life together. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. I still love you, she said, tears flowing freely now. Despite everything, despite what I've done, I never stopped loving you. The words that once would have meant everything now rang hollow. Love doesn't do this, I said simply. Whatever you feel for me, it isn't love. Maybe it never was. What happens now? She asked, her voice small. I looked at the woman I'd built my life around, now a stranger to me. Now you pack a bag and leave. Go to Michael's, since that's where you've been spending your weekends anyway. And since you actually are COVID positive, maybe you can both use this time to think about the people you've hurt and the trust you've destroyed. James, please. I'll contact a lawyer this week. I think we're beyond the point of counseling or reconciliation, don't you? Unless you want to tell me there's something worth saving here? Her silence was answer enough. That's what I thought, I said quietly. Please be gone when I get back. I need some air. I walked out of my own home, leaving Emma sitting at the table surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal. As I closed the door behind me, I heard her begin to sob, the sound of consequences finally catching up to choices she'd made months ago. And despite everything, a part of me still ached to comfort her. That perhaps was the cruelest part of betrayal, how love lingers even when trust is gone. The days following Emma's departure unfolded in a fog of practical necessities and emotional upheaval. She'd gone to Michael's as instructed, taking only enough for a week, leaving our shared life largely intact while shattering everything that had given it meaning. I moved through our house like a ghost, sleeping on the couch because the bed held too many memories. Eating became mechanical, sleep elusive. I took emergency leave from work, unable to focus on structural calculations when my own foundation had collapsed so completely. The text messages came regularly from both of them. Emma's were emotional appeals. Please talk to me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but we need to talk. I never meant for any of this to happen. Michael's were defensive justifications. It wasn't planned. We didn't want to hurt you. You were always working and she was lonely. I responded to none of them. Instead, I contacted a lawyer, an efficient woman named Serena who specialized in divorces. Infidelity with a family member is unfortunately not uncommon, she said during our consultation, her tone matter of fact. The COVID deception is a new twist, though. She outlined my options, recommended gathering financial documentation, and suggested I prepare for the likelihood that mutual friends would feel pressured to choose sides. Family involvement complicates everything, she explained. Be prepared for people to try normalizing the situation to avoid taking a position. Her prediction proved accurate almost immediately. 3 days after Emma left, my phone rang with a call from my aunt, Michael's mother. James, we need to talk about what's happening, she began without preamble. This situation with Michael and Emma. There is no situation, Aunt Carol, I interrupted. There's just the fact that my wife and your son betrayed me for months and lied about COVID to cover it up. I know you're hurt, she continued, her tone soothing in a way that made my skin crawl. But families get through difficult times by communicating. Michael feels terrible about how things happened. How things happened? I repeated incredulously. You mean how they deliberately deceived me? Used a pandemic as their convenient excuse? That's not something that happened, Aunt Carol. That's something they chose, repeatedly. People make mistakes when emotions are involved, she persisted. Michael says they fell in love. That's not something they could control. The defense of their actions hit me like a physical blow. They couldn't control falling in love, but they could certainly control creating elaborate lies for 6 months. They could control faking COVID tests. They could control not sleeping with their spouse's family member. James, I need to go, I said firmly. I appreciate that he's your son and you love him, but please don't call again asking me to understand or forgive what they did. There's nothing to understand except selfishness, and nothing to forgive until they actually take responsibility instead of making excuses. Similar conversations followed with other family members and mutual friends. Some expressed genuine shock and support. Others adopted a "these things happen" attitude that felt like salt in an open wound. A few suggested that the pandemic had created unusual circumstances that might explain, if not excuse, the affair. As if a virus had somehow forced them to betray me, as if lockdowns had made deception inevitable. The lowest point came when I finally forced myself to clear out the bathroom cabinet, removing Emma's toiletries to a box for her to collect. Behind her hair products, I found a pregnancy test, unused but recently purchased based on the receipt still in the bag. The possibility that she might have been planning a family while living a double life broke something in me that had been barely holding together. I sank to the floor, clutching the test, overwhelmed by what might have been and what now would never be. The future I'd imagined, children growing old together, building a life, disappeared like smoke. In its place was only uncertainty and the knowledge that the person I'd trusted most had been capable of unimaginable deception. That night, I called my older brother Ryan, the only person I knew who might understand without trying to minimize what had happened. I don't know how to do this, I admitted when he answered. How to start over at 31, how to ever trust anyone again. You don't have to know right now, he said simply. You just have to get through today, then tomorrow. Small steps. I keep wondering what I did wrong, I confessed. What I missed or didn't give her that made her turn to Michael. Stop that right now, Ryan's voice was firm. This wasn't your failure. They made these choices. Adult, deliberate choices to betray you. Don't take responsibility for their selfishness. His words were what I needed to hear, even if I wasn't ready to fully believe them. Before we hung up, he made me promise to eat a proper meal and consider seeing a therapist. This is trauma, James, he insisted. Treat it with the seriousness it deserves. I followed his advice on both counts, forcing down food that tasted like nothing, and scheduling an appointment with a counselor specializing in betrayal trauma. Small steps toward a future I couldn't yet imagine. 2 weeks after Emma left, I received a text with a photo of a negative COVID test. I'm clear now, she wrote. Can I come get more of my things and maybe we could talk? I typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on, I'll be out tomorrow from 10 to, key is under the mat, take what you need, I don't want to talk yet. The house felt different when I returned, subtle absences marking her visit. More clothes gone, her favorite books, the small pottery collection she'd made in college, our wedding album. On the kitchen counter, she'd left her house key and a handwritten letter. I stared at it for a long time before finally opening it, bracing myself for more justifications or emotional appeals. Instead, I found something unexpected. James, I won't ask for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. What I did was unforgivable. Not just the affair, but the calculated deception, the lies about COVID, involving your family in our betrayal. There's no excuse that could possibly justify any of it. You deserved so much better than what I gave you, than what I became. The person you married wouldn't have done these things, and I don't recognize who I am anymore either. Michael and I have ended things, not because we think it changes anything for you, but because a relationship built on such terrible betrayal could never be healthy or right. Too late, we both see that clearly. I'm moving to Portland next week to stay with a college friend while I figure out what's next. I've signed the preliminary divorce papers your lawyer sent. I'm not contesting anything. The house, the accounts, it's all yours as it should be. I hope someday you find happiness again with someone worthy of you. Someone who recognizes your goodness and would never dream of hurting you as I have. I am so sorry, Emma. I read the letter 3 times, searching for the manipulation, the subtle blame shifting, the hidden agenda. I found none. Just a clear-eyed acknowledgement of fault that, while changing nothing about what had happened, at least showed she understood the magnitude of what she'd done. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't even the beginning of healing. But it was, perhaps, a tiny crack in the solid wall of pain that had surrounded me since the moment I'd found that positive COVID test in the trash. That night, I slept in our bed for the first time since she'd left. Not because I'd forgiven or forgotten, but because I refused to let her betrayal keep me from one more part of my own home, my own life. Small steps, one day at a time, the beginning of reclaiming what was mine. The healing wasn't linear. Some days felt like progress. I'd go to work, engage with colleagues, almost forget for stretches of time that my life had imploded. Other days, a random trigger, a COVID testing site, a couple laughing together, any mention of Chicago, would plunge me back into the raw pain of discovery. True to her word, Emma moved to Portland. The divorce proceeded without contention, her absence making the legal process straightforward if not emotionally simple. Michael made several attempts to meet with me, each declined with increasing firmness until he finally stopped trying. 3 months after Emma's departure, Ryan convinced me to join a support group for people dealing with infidelity. I resisted initially, uncomfortable with the idea of sharing something so personal with strangers. Just try one meeting, he urged. If it's terrible, you never have to go back. The group met weekly in a church basement, 8 people whose lives had been upended by betrayal. As I listened to their stories, I felt the isolating bubble around my pain begin to thin. These strangers understood what well-meaning friends could not. The peculiar mix of grief, rage, humiliation, and disorientation that comes with profound betrayal. The hardest part isn't even the affair itself, said a woman named Teresa during my second meeting. It's the gaslighting, the way they make you question your own reality, the way they rewrite history to justify what they did. Heads nodded around the circle. I found myself nodding too. I keep wondering if any of it was real, admitted a man about my age. 7 years of marriage, and now I don't know which parts were genuine and which were lies. This too resonated deeply. Had Emma ever loved me truthfully? Had our happy memories been real for her, or was she always half present, already looking toward something else, someone else? The group's facilitator, a counselor named David who had experienced infidelity in his own marriage years earlier, offered a perspective that stuck with me. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to separate the real from the false in your shared past. The truth is, it was probably both, genuine feelings alongside growing deception. Humans are complex that way, capable of compartmentalizing in ways that seem impossible to honest people. In individual therapy, I worked through the trust issues that now colored every interaction. My therapist, Dr. Lin, helped me see that vigilance and paranoia weren't the same thing. That healthy caution after betrayal wasn't the same as assuming everyone would lie to me. You're rebuilding your internal security system, she explained. Right now it's hypersensitive, setting off alarms at every small inconsistency. With time and processing, you'll recalibrate to detect actual threats without constant false alarms. 6 months after the discovery, I agreed to meet with my aunt and uncle, Michael's parents, at Ryan's suggestion. The family fracture had affected more people than just those directly involved, and while I wasn't ready to see Michael, I recognized that healing might eventually require addressing the wider ripple effects. We met at a neutral restaurant, the initial minutes tense with unspoken grief. Finally, my uncle cleared his throat. James, we want you to know that we don't condone what Michael did, what they both did. It was wrong in every way. The simple acknowledgement, free from qualifications or excuses, loosened something tight in my chest. "We love our son," my aunt continued, "but we love you too. You're our nephew. You've been part of our family your entire life. We don't want to lose that connection, even though we understand if you need distance right now." "I do need distance," I admitted. "From Michael, definitely. Maybe from family gatherings for a while. But I appreciate you saying that. It helps to know you understand why this hurts so much." My uncle nodded solemnly. "Family should be the people you can trust most. That's what makes this kind of betrayal so damaging. Michael broke that fundamental trust." We talked for nearly 2 hours, not about reconciliation or forgiveness, but about grief and boundaries and the slow process of building new normals. They didn't pressure me to reunite with Michael or to process faster than I was capable of. They simply offered continued connection on whatever terms worked for me. The conversation didn't heal everything, but it removed the additional burden of navigating an extended family that might have prioritized peace over accountability. 8 months after Emma left, I received a job offer that would require relocation to Seattle. The timing felt significant, a natural opportunity to create physical distance from the places and routines that still held echoes of my former life. The decision wasn't easy. Moving meant leaving the support system I'd built, the therapist who had helped me navigate the darkest months, the group that had normalized my experience. But staying meant continuing to build my new life in the shadow of the old one. "What do you think you really want?" Ryan asked when I called to discuss the opportunity. I paused, realizing this was the first time in months I'd thought about my future in terms of desire rather than escape or survival. "I want to see who I might become somewhere new, somewhere I'm not the guy whose wife had an affair with his cousin, somewhere my history isn't written on every street corner." "Then I think you have your answer," he said simply. I accepted the job. The process of selling the house, packing belongings, and saying goodbyes became a ritual of release. Each box labeled, each room emptied, each farewell coffee with friends who had stood by me. All of it felt like shedding a skin that no longer fit. The night before my departure, I received an unexpected email from Emma. "I heard from Jen that you're moving to Seattle. I won't intrude on your fresh start with a long message. I just wanted to say that I hope this new chapter brings you all the happiness and peace you deserve. You've always been stronger than you give yourself credit for. I'm still sorry every day for what I did, but I'm glad to know you're moving forward. Be well, James." I sat with the message for a long time, searching myself for the anger that had been my constant companion for months. I found it had softened into something more complex, not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps the beginning of acceptance that what had happened was now part of my history, not my present or my future. I didn't reply. Some doors were better left closed. But I recognized the email for what it was. One final thread being released, allowing both of us to fully move on. The drive to Seattle the next day felt symbolic. Miles of highway putting physical distance between me and the life that had been derailed by a crumpled COVID test in a bathroom trash can. With each passing state line, I felt the weight on my shoulders lightening incrementally. Not gone, not forgotten, but no longer defining every breath, every moment, every thought. A beginning, tentative as it might be, of whatever came next. Seattle welcomed me with its distinctive blend of urban energy and natural beauty. The new job challenged me in ways that demanded full focus, leaving less mental space for rumination about the past. My apartment overlooking Puget Sound became a sanctuary of my own design, reflecting only my tastes, my choices, my preferences. The first year in this new city was one of deliberate rebuilding. I found a therapist to continue the work I'd begun. I joined hiking groups that introduced me to the stunning landscapes of the Pacific Northwest. I reconnected with college friends who had settled in the area, creating a social circle untouched by the events that had defined my recent past. Slowly, carefully, I began to trust again. First in small ways, then in larger ones. I shared my story with new friends when it felt relevant, not as an open wound, but as an experience that had shaped me. I learned to recognize the difference between legitimate caution and paralyzing fear. 18 months after moving, I met Naomi at a fundraiser for a local arts education program. She was direct, perceptive, with a quiet confidence that drew me in despite my hesitations. Our first dates were marked by a transparency that felt both refreshing and necessary. "I sense there's a story there," she said on our third date when the topic of past relationships arose. "You don't have to tell me now, or ever if it's too private, but I'm listening if you want to share." When I eventually did tell her about Emma and Michael and the elaborate COVID deception, she listened without interruption, her expression shifting from shock to empathy. "Thank you for trusting me with that," she said when I finished. "It explains a lot about how carefully you move in relationships, how you verify rather than just trust." "Does it bother you?" I asked. "That I might need more reassurance, more transparency than most people?" She considered this thoughtfully. "Everyone has their history, James. Everyone has ghosts and scars and things that have shaped how they navigate the world. Your needs make sense given what you've experienced. The right person won't see your caution as a burden, but as an opportunity for building something honest from the ground up." Her response, straightforward without platitudes or dismissal, was exactly what I needed to hear. Not promises that I would get over it eventually, but acknowledgement that my experience had changed me in ways that were legitimate and deserving of respect. Our relationship developed slowly, each step forward a conscious choice rather than an assumption. When COVID variants prompted new rounds of testing and precautions, we navigated these potential triggers together, Naomi understanding why something as simple as a home test kit might carry emotional weight for me. 2 years after settling in Seattle, I received an invitation to Ryan's daughter's high school graduation back home. The event would inevitably involve extended family, including Michael. After careful consideration and conversations with both my therapist and Naomi, I decided to attend, bringing Naomi with me for support. The reunion was less fraught than I had feared. Michael kept a respectful distance, approaching only once to say simply, "I'm glad you came for Ryan's family. I won't intrude on your visit." Later, at the family dinner, I found myself in conversation with his teenage daughter from his previous marriage, now a thoughtful young woman applying to colleges. As we discussed her interest in engineering, my field, I realized something significant. The pain that had once seemed all-consuming had diminished enough that I could separate this innocent family member from the actions of her father. "What happened?" Naomi asked later in our hotel room, noting my contemplative mood. "I think I realized I'm actually healing," I replied. "Not in the way people describe it in movies or self-help books, not some dramatic moment of forgiveness or catharsis. Just, the wound isn't raw anymore. It's a scar now. Still visible, still part of me, but not defining every interaction." On our last day in town, I drove past the house where Emma and I had lived. A young family now occupied it, toys in the yard, a swing set where my workshop had been. The sight didn't trigger pain as it once would have. Instead, it felt like looking at a chapter in someone else's story, meaningful once, but no longer central to the narrative I was living. Back in Seattle, life continued to evolve. Naomi and I moved in together after 2 years of dating, making a home that felt secure because of our shared commitment to honesty, not despite the difficulties in our pasts. My career advanced. My relationship with my extended family found a new equilibrium, different than before, but stable and meaningful in its own way. 3 years after my world had collapsed around a positive COVID test in a bathroom trash can, I received a text from an unknown number with a Portland area code. "James, it's Emma. I hope it's okay to reach out after all this time. I'm getting married next month to someone I met here in Portland. Before I take that step, I wanted to tell you how truly sorry I remain for the pain I caused you. You deserved so much better. I hope life has been kind to you in the years since. If this message is unwelcome, please know I won't contact you again." I showed the message to Naomi, who hugged me and asked, "How does it make you feel?" I considered the question carefully. Peaceful, actually, like the final piece of something has been resolved. Not because I needed her to find happiness, but because it confirms we've all moved forward. The chapter is truly closed. I replied simply, "Thank you for your message. I wish you well in your marriage. Be good to each other." Then I put my phone away and returned to preparing dinner with Naomi, the present moment more compelling than any echo of the past. Looking back now, I can trace the long, uneven path from devastation to rebuilding. The lessons weren't ones I would have chosen to learn, but they shaped me nonetheless. I learned that betrayal doesn't break just your heart. It breaks your sense of reality, your understanding of the past, your vision of the future. I learned that healing isn't about forgetting or even necessarily forgiving, but about reclaiming your right to define your own life without reference to those who harmed you. I learned that trust after betrayal isn't blind faith, but a courageous choice made with open eyes, acknowledging the risks while refusing to be defined by fear. Most importantly, I learned that while deception can destroy what you thought you had, it cannot determine what you might yet build. If you're brave enough to try again, wiser but not hardened, cautious but not closed. The COVID test that revealed my wife's betrayal marked the end of one chapter of my life. But like all endings, it contained within it the seeds of a beginning I couldn't have imagined in those first dark days. A life rebuilt not in spite of what happened, but because of the strength discovered in surviving it. If this story resonates with you, please know that healing from betrayal is possible, even when the path seems impossible to find. Your experience may be different from mine, but the capacity for resilience lives in all of us. Like a building designed to withstand earthquakes, we can become more flexible without breaking, more grounded while still reaching upward. Thank you for listening to my journey. If you found value in it, please consider sharing with others who might be walking their own path through betrayal toward healing. Your comments and experiences are welcome. This community has become a source of strength for many facing similar challenges. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of human resilience and transformation. Sometimes the most powerful healing comes from knowing we're not alone in our darkest moments.